Nick, thanks for joining the Set GK show, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
What's life in Missouri like?
Life in Missouri. That's a great question. It's pretty good, man. It's good. I'm enjoying it right now. Kind of just jumped fully into full-time coaching. So it's been quite the transition from me from being a player probably about a year ago to going into a full-time coach for the last year. But I've enjoyed it, man. At a college coaching, USL women's team, a club,
Yeah.
just all aspects getting involved.
What's that transition been like? What are some struggles you faced?
Oh, yeah, it's been an interesting transition. Struggles, man. I think the biggest one was just like disconnecting myself from thinking as a player, having that
Right.
mindset, and having to, now I want to. Now I'm a coach. I'm here to help the players. When you're a player, you think a little bit more selfish. You're thinking, how can you better yourself, and then hopefully that translates to helping the team. Now I'm on the other side. I want to figure out how I can help all my players and, bring the team together, things like that. So that was probably my biggest thing. I'm also a young coach,
For sure.
and, coaching at the college level, you sometimes are worried, like, do you get that respect from those players because they know that you're close in age? So that's been quite the transition as well, kind of getting used to that, being more of
Yeah.
like an authority role.
So you're getting the respect, Nick? You laying down
Yeah.
the law? What
you,
are some
you,
what are some things you're doing though
yeah,
to because look, that's a big struggle, right? I had the same thing, just hopping into college coaching right after playing, but granted, it was the team I played for, so it was
mhm.
a little bit of, I think it's different there because the guys know me, so it's
Yeah,
like some respect, some what it is. But
yeah.
yeah, man, what's it been like to you? What have you done to kind of gain that respect?
Yeah, I think at first I was like, I didn't even know where how to get it at first. Like I didn't even know what to do. I probably came off a bit nervous as a coach, and that's probably why. And then probably the girls recognized that pretty early on, and maybe that's why I didn't get it at the beginning. I think I took a different approach from what maybe like the traditional route of being tough on them and kind of demanding it, and I just tried to be more personable.
Right,
Like really listen, especially with like the women's players. It's a different game, right? Like there's emotions involved, and there's a lot of outside factors that I find affect their game, and not just, they're not always just focused purely on playing. It's like it's life as a whole. So you're trying to
sure,
transition to that. So kind of just be more personable to them. Listen to all their issues. Try and give them all the advice I can. Relate to them because it wasn't long ago when I was kind of in their shoes as well. Um, so not trying to be this like kind of old school, I'm your coach, that's it. There's no
right.
personal relationship. I found that kind of just genuinely caring for the player has helped a lot more. And it's definitely opened up relationships with my players, which has been really good.
Yeah, listening to all their issues. What are you taking the role on as a therapist too, team therapist?
Dude, that's what I feel like sometimes. I said that to the head coach like within the first month. I'm like, dude, are we therapists or are we coaches here?
Yeah, hey, part of the gig, right?
Right, man,
What?
right.
How many years into coaching are you now?
I'm about I mean, I was doing part-time coaching as I was playing, but as a full-time coach, it's my first, I've just hit about a year now. So, um, yeah, 12 months.
Yeah. Where in those last 12 months, as you reflect a little bit, where what in the last 12 months have you changed the most from month one to month 12?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky that I get to, I'm an assistant coach, but I get to put a lot of focus on the goalkeepers, and I'm kind of used as the goalkeeper coach slash assistant. So if we're talking as a goalkeeper coach, because that's kind of where my focus is, and that's a goal of mine is to kind of stay in that space, is session planning.
Hmm.
I used to get anxiety if my session didn't go exactly as I planned out.
Yeah.
Set for set, like the time and
Right.
everything.
Right.
And I think now I've just realized how much things change on the daily, like depending on how many keepers I get, how quickly maybe the coach's his sessions change. So now he needs them earlier or later, and just like adapting. Before I was like, all right, here's our session. We're just going to do it start to finish, however long it takes or however short it is. That's it. And now recognizing like on the day, even if my keepers come in and they're just not ready for it, like,
Right.
you know, they didn't sleep all the night before, they're having some family issues, and I'm kind of they're not fully involved either. It's just how can I adapt that session to them. I think that's my biggest thing that I've changed is I've realized. Also, I was like crazy with cones and equipment at
Yeah.
first, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I just started watching other coaches, listening to podcasts and stuff, and just
Sure.
realizing like nothing I was doing at the beginning was game realistic. I just thought like
Right.
if we do a lot of footwork and we catch the ball a lot, like then I'm doing my
Yeah.
job. And then I realized like I started breaking down film more, and I'm like, man, I'm not giving any benefit right now to these goalkeepers. I'm like, how can I make the game more realistic? So simplifying stuff like drills are way more simple. Making everything a lot more just like live play, letting it kind of play out as it
Yeah.
needs, one ball at a time. And yeah, I think I've come a long way in 12 months from my session plans and just running a session in general. I think I still have a long way to go, but I could
For
be
sure.
confident that I can say it's improved.
Yeah, getting rid of the equipment I feel like is always step one for like any new goalkeeper coach because at the start you want to just use cones, hurdles, the whole nine, and once you kind of understand, it's like, oh, you know what, we don't really need this.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that's always step one in growth. And for me too, I just got so sick of setting up cones and hurdles too. I'm like, I don't want to do it
Yeah.
now. Granted, I do use mannequins in almost all my sessions just
Yeah.
because you got to have like some sort of visual impairment, at least for me, to make
Yeah.
it as close to the game as possible. But yeah, man, I still see all the time just coaches using cones, going through ladders, catching ball. I'm like, just just
Yeah.
think a little bit differently than you thought 10 years ago. And
Yeah,
uh,
literally. And I totally agree with the mannequin thing. I pushed everything out. I like maybe use some flats sometimes more to mark my like
yeah,
servers more than
for sure.
anything. And then yeah, I brought mannequins or like if I only have poles that day to like be like my restriction and stuff. But something, yeah, to kind of like just emulate the game a bit more and fill the space is way better. Yeah, it is. I feel like I've had some good mentors here as well. I was really fortunate to have them prior to me moving down here, and then to stay in touch. And one of them still lives in the area, so I've learned a lot from him as well. He's,
Nice.
um,
Who the hell wants to still live in Missouri, man?
I know, man. What am I doing here?
No, I'm
That
kidding.
this
I'm
is
kidding.
this is the short term. We're
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
moving
yeah.
on to
Yeah.
better things.
No, I'm kidding. I've never been to Missouri, so I can't really
Yeah,
talk all
I
that shit. I just think Pittsburgh's great. But anyway, I mean, let's
yeah.
go back to the playing days, man. How'd you know you wanted to hang it up and get into coaching?
Yeah, man. Good. That's a great question. I guess it comes different from everyone. I was in college, so I guess that's why I want to stay in Missouri, man. I did college. I went to college in Missouri too, so I just like. I guess I
Same
can't
with
get away from the
you.
state.
Yeah.
um, but in college, I guess like I had something. I felt like I had something to prove. Like I was never like the best like club
Sure.
like keeper like growing up. Like being from Canada, high school's not a big thing, but um, club is a really big thing. And like I was never on the best clubs. I was always kind of fighting for spots until like I was always having to really prove myself to any new coach that like I'm a guy that you can trust and rely on. So even with my college commitment, like I mean, I say it now because I'm content with where I went, and I was really happy to do my 4 years at my college. But it was my last choice, so I didn't sign to my school until the May of my senior year,
Yeah.
like when I was leaving. Before that, there was all these other offers. I was getting dropped everywhere, and I'm like, man, I need to go to school. And like my goal was to go to the U.S. to play. Um, so I just took the last offer that was basically standing, and thankfully it was still a good offer. They kind of um, kept it honest the entire time, even though I
Yeah.
kind of pushed them away. Went there, kind of did my time, was really fortunate to start 3 of my 4 years, which got me tons of playing time. And then I was like, I got more to give.
Yeah.
I was loving it too much. I'm like, I got to go after more. So I graduated during COVID, which wasn't ideal for anybody,
Yeah.
but we do what we can. And from there, I went home, trained, got an opportunity to go to Germany, went to a fifth division club in Germany, which is like the German level is actually pretty competitive once you get into
Sure.
like those like top six. So
Right.
I was pretty happy with that to be like a first like out of school opportunity. Signed with this club just outside of Frankfurt, and then COVID hit round two.
Jeez. Yeah.
Season canceled. I'm like, well, I got to get home because I ain't getting stuck in Germany with no money for the next 8 months again.
Yeah.
Went home, my contract technically ended. So like I don't even think I got a full like game in. So like I basically trained with the team for a while and got some friendlies, and then yeah, I had to leave. And then USL 2 was really enjoying that. Played South Bend Lions out of Indiana. Had a great
Mm,
season there. Played like 10 of the 13 games, and like didn't play a couple due to injury. And then I had one more season in Europe. Went to go play in Finland with like a third division club and training with a couple higher division teams at the same time.
yeah.
And I think there, I just, more than anything, it was burnout. I was
Yeah.
struggling with the fact that, every year I was like, where am I going to be next year?
Yeah.
It was hard always traveling it was hard going over to Europe and going on these trials, not knowing if like, am I going back home next week and like paying all this
Right.
money to go over. And honestly, man, like there were some people along the way that, made some really good promises that didn't uphold their end of the deal. And that's fine. That's the business and that's the reality of it that I just wasn't guided with. Like no one was warning me about that part. And I was just tired of it, man. In the back of my head, I was like, I'm always going to give playing a good go, but in the end, my goal after that is to coach. And I had a really good opportunity to come to the St. Louis area and start a coaching career. And I was like, you know what, I'll go do it for a year. And if I really like it, then I made the right decision. If not, I'll get back into playing. I don't think I thought about playing since the third day I was into a coaching gig. Like
Really.
yeah, haven't thought about it since, man. Love what I
Yeah.
do.
That's awesome.
Re-
That's awesome.
really, really happy to have the career I did. I did things I said I wanted to, so I was happy to at least achieve the goals that I set. Maybe didn't get to the level I was hoping,
Right.
um, but happy with what I did and happy with where I am now. I also get to like guide some younger players, like just give the realities of what after
Yeah.
college playing is like. Kind of just
Talk on that a little bit more. Like what I mean, what because I think a lot of people might have something that's a little bit skewed of what it's really like in the direction, but
yeah,
I mean, for someone that's not getting looked at by the top leagues, whether in the
yeah,
U.S. or the states, I mean, what's it really like, and what were some like what are some of those promises that people are going to make to you
yeah,
as they're coming up?
yeah. A couple things that you're gonna face is like we're not the reality is there's a small percentage that's going to make it to the top level and have that luxury lifestyle that we see on the internet and on TV. Everything else is low level stuff, for a lot of guys that are coming from probably good colleges in the US, like your facilities are going to be not as
Right.
great as your college ones. The money's not going to be awesome. And sometimes the soccer at the beginning is not going to be great either because you kind of got to like reprove yourself again overseas. No one really knows who you are. Not that they don't respect college soccer, but like they just don't understand it as much as we do.
Right.
So it's hard for them to take chances on guys. So you gotta expect the unexpected. Um, you've got to understand that if you step into something, it's like, oh, this doesn't look great. It's not because the club isn't a good club and you're not going to get good like competition. It's just reality that there's so many teams, there's so many clubs that like financially, not everyone has the money to really build up that infrastructure. So, you know, low pay, one season deals or like half season deals are a reality. Not being brought back for the next season is a reality. Continuously moving around is a reality. Getting stuck in the same level or, to technically dropping a level depending on the country that you move to.
Hmm.
It's a lot of like you got to really just like bet on yourself. It's got to be a lot of self-belief, a lot of perseverance. And I think you got to have a good support system behind you. So if you got people that are going to support you, friends, family, significant others that are, backing you on that, I think that's going to help a lot. But you got to just understand that it's not just going to happen right off the bat. Most of the time, it's going to take quite a couple, like few years to kind of build up. I mean, if you look at a guy like on the Secchi pro team, Jonathan Viscosi, who now plays like
Hmm.
first division Finland and was doing that in Sweden as well. He had a long time before he got to where he was over
Yeah.
there in that Scandinavian league. So, if you can grind it out, then you'll eventually get to where you need to be because you'll gain the experience and exposure and people start to bet on you. But until then, yeah, you got to be willing to grind for a bit and, take some low wages and just kind of get by to be able to kind of reach that end goal.
For sure. What's been the coolest place you've seen?
Honestly, man, I loved Finland. It was really
Yeah.
cool. It was a really nice, just country in general, but Germany was awesome. Frankfurt was really cool. Like I got to see Frankfurt, which was cool. Um, and then I would say like on my travels through, I've been to Sweden and Iceland and Greece as well, which were beautiful. But in terms of playing wise, I really liked Germany. So, it's a football country, so
Right.
it was probably my favorite out of everything for sure.
Game's taking you to some pretty cool places, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I've been very
You-
fortunate.
Yeah. And now you're in Missouri.
And somehow it's all ended back in
Yeah.
Missouri. I don't know how, but yeah, full circle, literally.
How many goalkeepers are you currently working with throughout club, USL,
Yeah.
W?
Oh, yeah, that's a so at college level, this is great. So college, starting my first college gig, I had 6 keepers first day, and I was extremely overwhelmed.
Jeez.
Um, but it was probably a good thing because it made me teach like how to work with big groups right away.
Yeah. How'd you handle it?
Just at
Especially
first,
because there are a lot of colleges that have at least,
yeah,
four or five
y-
goalkeepers. So I try to not keep that many because one, I don't want to deal with it, but two, it's just like it's tough for everybody.
yeah. At first, it was like I was trying to please everybody, and then you realize you just can't. You got to just like my how I started to deal with it was how can I involve as many as possible in the drill. So
Yeah.
how can I have them if they're not working, in the goal, how can I have them at least serving and, understanding that the service is just as important or be a target
Right.
person to work on their touch or something. So just like making drills a bit more complex so that all my keepers can work and we're working on some aspect of the game. And then, beginning of the week, 5 days out from a match day, I can put a little bit more focus on my lower level keepers who are trying to fight their way into like maybe just a game day roster. And
Yeah.
then as the week progresses, I put more focus on our 2 and our 1, and and then by the end of the week, I'm prepping our 1 for the weekend.
Right.
And I kind of do that now at the USLW level. I've got about 5 keepers now. So same thing. It's a very busy group, and it's not an ideal number, but we make it work. And same thing, we put focus on the person that we need to help us on the weekend earlier in the week. We kind of do it more as a session that is going to benefit everybody. And then as the week goes on, we gear it more towards who our opponent is, how they play, and then who we've decided is going to start for us on the weekend. Club level, that's a whole nother demon.
Yeah.
Depending on my session, if I'm working with academy keepers, I got like 2 or 3, maybe 4 tops for a session. But if we're doing like we have like a slice of league, which is like the St. Louis youth local league, right? If we have those keepers stepping in, we group them all together for one session a week, like in age groups. So I was working with 18 to 7 at a time, like depending on the session that week. So
Right.
an 18 was a lot, and you had assistants with you helping you out, which is really
Yeah.
beneficial. But yeah, that was the club scene's a lot different. It's nice though because I'm more just focusing on technical development. You can really
Right.
break down stuff down a lot easier. I don't need to make super complex drills. We're not going as game realistic. They're
Yeah.
training through the week with their teams. We're just trying to build their technique.
Yeah. Build a
Um,
foundation.
yeah, we want to build foundation. We want them to be comfortable catching the ball, footwork through the goal, diving properly, so they're not injuring themselves, things like that. And then as they
Right.
get older and like they're kind of like on the line of that academy age, that's when we don't have as many, and then we start to focus a little bit more on game situation.
Gotcha. That all makes sense. Six
Yeah,
goalkeepers at college. Sheesh.
I know
That's
it was crazy. Luckily, we've dropped that number to 4 next year, so it'll
yeah.
be a little bit better.
Yeah. Less of a headache for you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Nick. Last question, as we like to end these. What's the favorite set GK club?
Oh, from day one, all whites. They are my absolute favorite. I think they're the best glove they make. I think it's just the durability of them, man. Like the latex, I've worn a pair for like I had one game pair for my season in Finland, and I wore it the whole season, and they were immaculate. Like I kept taking good
Awesome.
care of them. Like I washed them
Yeah.
after every match and everything. But in terms of like, and we were playing on grass and turf, so it wasn't just all grass the whole time. I don't know what it is, what they did with those, but I love the all whites. They're my
Yeah.
absolute favorite of all time.
So it's the popular choice on this podcast is the all
Yeah,
whites.
yeah, man, they're nice. And I don't know, something about the all white glove is just if you
Clean.
can keep them nice and clean, man, it's just a
Yeah,
good look,
100%,
right?
100%. I couldn't agree more. They're my favorite too, but I want someone to say like something a little bit different at
I know,
some
right?
point. But
But
that's all right. The all whites. It's good to know.
yeah,
Nick, thank you for the time, man.
yeah, thank
Take care
you.
and best of luck.
Appreciate it, man.